And good morning and welcome to Touchbase Daily. It is Wisdom Wednesday or Watercooler Talk Wednesday. It's going to be a combination of both today. And you're probably saying, Ron hasn't had a guest on in a while. Well, that's because we're in election season. But we do have a guest coming on next week. But this week, it's because there's so much to talk about daily. And Wednesdays, our water cooler day is one of our best days because we get to just talk. We get to just hang out and just share and relax. I'm still with my new mushroom coffee, and but it's a lot to desire. So I should say maybe not much to desire. So I have to put in some cinnamon, some nutmeg, and some ginger, and some good old agave. So how's everybody doing on this wonderful Wednesday? It is hump day, y'all. It is hump day. And with that, we got our wonderful Gwendolyn in the back room. She's going to come on in a little bit. But let's see who's in the building. Let's see. I see Hannah in the building. Good morning, Ron and RLP family. I see Gwendolyn's in the building. And I see Aya is in the building. She says, Grand Rising. And Hannah says, good morning, Gwendolyn. I love when I see all that love going back and forth. And how are you on this wonderful Wednesday, she says. And I see Jazzy's in the building. What's going on, Jazzy? Good morning, beautiful people, she says. And going through, Elise is in the building. Good morning, Ron and everyone, she says. And then Gwendolyn says, good morning. She finally says good morning after being on the chat for a while. And Brian is in the building. Good morning. Good morning. So much is happening. Well, anyway, I'm just going to bring everybody up quickly. I mean, Gwendolyn's in the building, so I'm going to bring her in real fast because, good morning, Gwendolyn. It's so good to see you.
Good morning.
I was like, is Gwendolyn's in the building? I see her.
Yeah.
Man, one is I'm excited about the Yankees. Now, you don't usually hear me talk about sports a lot.
No.
But the Yankees won again 2 days in a row. And yesterday, that last clincher of a home run. Pop, bing. Getting closer to the World Series. They could be going to the World Series.
Well, the Astros are out, so I'm not watching anymore.
And the Mets, they still have a chance to go to the World Series. So you know what we New Yorkers like to have? The Subway Series. Hopefully so. We'll see. We will see. It's looking good in the sports circle. Oh, Elise is in the background. Let's bring Elise on as well. Lady Elise. Hello, Lady Elise.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. It's a new day. How are you this morning, my dear?
I'm doing well. It's cold and it's cool in DC, but I'm doing well.
Oh, I love this weather. This is my favorite weather.
You can have this weather.
They're saying that it is the driest October in 50 years. We have not had no rain in New York.
Oh, wow.
No rain all October. We were in day 16 and it has been no rain.
Huh.
I think we might have had early on, but we haven't had much. It's been beautiful outside.
It's beautiful. It's like living in San Diego.
If this is like San Diego, I don't want to live there either.
The sunny weather. Well, anyway, first topic out the box. Well, first, like I said, the Yankees won yesterday. The Mets are going to play today, so we'll see how that goes. And so that's in the sports world. Obviously, tomorrow is football. And but Georgia Can we talk about Georgia?
Georgia on our mind, right?
Georgia is on my mind.
Yes.
Georgia is on my mind. I am like, Georgia outdid themselves yesterday. They broke the election turnout of 2020.
Right, they did.
But they didn't just break it, they doubled it.
Yeah.
They
200,000.
doubled 2020, which 2020 was an election year record.
Yes,
Right.
it was.
Right.
But they
Yes.
doubled that yesterday.
It's got to keep coming out like that.
Keep coming out. I want day 2 to be a record breaker. I want day 3 to be a record breaker. Georgia, keep it coming. Bank it, bank it, bank it. It's like Stacey Abrams said this morning, I think it's last night or this morning. She said, get out, bank it, bank it, but vote as early as you can. Vote now, because then all you have to do is worry about getting others to the polls.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
All you have to do is worry about helping others,
Yep,
because
that's all
you
you
are
have to do.
already squared away.
Helping others, encouraging other people to get out there. That's what you have to do from that point on. Let's get out there early. I believe in early voting. I'm going
Early voting.
I need to talk to DC and wonder why. I'm wondering why I started so late.
Ours on the 25th or something. I think I know it's in the next week or next Friday or something. I know one thing. Whenever it is, I'm usually there day one.
Yeah.
As soon as the door opens, they're like, you are serious. And I go, I am very serious. I don't believe in waiting to the last minute.
No.
Yeah, my husband and I are usually there the first day. And this time, I'm making sure I vote, because when the actual election happens, I'll be in Ghana. So
yes, you are going to Ghana.
Yes.
We're
going to celebrate the win in Ghana.
Yes. My mind. I gotta say, Georgia. I gotta just put. I gotta make sure I add this to my little banner, because I just want to say Georgia on my mind.
Yeah, yeah, and I think they needed to show up like that. And, I was telling my husband what I was most excited about was Jimmy Carter gets the vote.
Right.
Yes. Now
Yes,
my thing is, did Jimmy go out yesterday, or are they going to take him out today?
So I don't know how they're doing his vote. I don't know if they're doing it like he's gonna mail it in. I'm not sure how they're doing it.
Well, it would be something
if he went out.
Roll him in. He does his thing, and then roll him out. It would be so beautiful. One, number two, it will be the headlines.
Oh yeah, it'd be all over the news.
It'll be all over the news.
There was a thread that said that he had already voted. So I don't know if that thread is credible, but there was a thread that said he had already voted yesterday.
Yeah, they say he voted yesterday, so I don't know. That's what I keep hearing.
I think it indicated he was voted yesterday, but I was hoping that they had him go into one of the polls.
Yeah, I was hoping they had pictures of him, like at least even if he didn't go on the poll with his ballot. Like,
ballot in hand. That would have been drama, y'all. That would have been drama.
It would have been a picture no matter what.
There's a lot of reports here saying that he voted yesterday in early voting. So I don't know.
So he was one of the record breakers.
Yeah.
Right.
Georgia is on my mind.
Like those people in Georgia that insist that they count those votes may hate the fact that they want a hand count.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they hate it, and I hope people are there to watch them that are not on their side.
Mm-hmm.
Say that again. The GOP lost in court to try to get this election in Georgia delayed by making those people count by hand. I mean, you talk about going back. We are not going back. I mean, these Republicans, these GOPs, these mega people, they're just, I'm telling you, I cannot wait to the day when they're just the way of the Whigs, the way of some, because they are truly the Confederacy.
Right.
I had a thought yesterday as I was talking to my husband, and I thought to myself, perhaps if they didn't work so hard to suppress the vote, people would vote for them. Like here in Tarrant County, they tried to remove voting places at the university because they didn't want college kids to vote because they believe they typically vote Democratic.
Right.
Then they want to move the place where you can vote. They want to take away ballot boxes. Like, if you didn't work so hard to suppress it, perhaps folks would vote for you. But look what you're doing. Look at the stuff you're doing to make it hard for people. That's not a positive. These are negatives. Cut it out.
And then they just lose in court because they didn't want people to have assistance. I think I read that yesterday that they lost in court because they were trying to, like, if you had a disability, you know, like some senior citizens, they have people who are there, they wheel them in and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. They were trying to keep them from having their assistance. And I was like, wow. And you know, and the part that really gets me about your state, Gwendolyn, he's in a wheelchair.
But the thing is, again, if they would just have good policy.
Yes.
Right.
If they had good policy, they wouldn't have to cheat.
Yes.
Right.
But they have no policy. Mm-hmm. Because this is not the Republican Party of old.
Right.
These people have no policies. Mm-hmm. They have nothing they're running on but turning back the clock.
Right.
Well,
they want to turn back the clock.
They're running on hate. Like, they are going for America's beginnings, hate, fear mongering, power over others. You know, it's like, dude, y'all don't have to let that go. You
let
can't
it go.
What the future is. The future is truly a melting pot of triracial, biracial, all racial, something. Like, get over it.
We are a melting pot. America, the majority, and when you go to a Kamala rally or look at one, that's America.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And you know, and it's about white men. White men already know they're outnumbered in general. They're outnumbered by women and all the other groups. And that's what this is all about.
They're afraid.
White men. It's not about anybody else.
It's all about the white men. But did you just hear the news also? I think I at least sent it to me. I went and, you know, I dove into it. That white women have changed the elector since Romney. When Romney was in place, they had 9 points voted for GOP. Then when the first time Trump ran, it was 6 points.
Right.
The second time was 7 points. So you think about it. I mean, I just want to go with that little number there, that little span there before we go to the next one.
Right.
Is that white women, in spite of this guy caging kids, separating people, taking away rights, abusing, having all these things, and how he did in COVID, and all that stuff,
right?
Putting on the Supreme Court justice that is against them. And these white women, not only did they vote for Trump, they voted for him more than the first time when they knew nothing about him.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, they voted the first time, and then they come out and they want to put those hats, those pink pussy hats on and complain. I was like, I don't want to hear. Don't come to me saying anything. I told my husband, at this point, you're going to have to prove to me how you voted. Right. Because don't ask for it. Don't come. I don't care who you are. Black, white, green, purple. You walk up to me, how'd you vote before I help you?
How did you vote?
How'd you vote? Maybe I'll call 911 for you. Come on.
Now what they're saying is, according to the polls,
right?
Obviously, because voting hasn't happened. I mean, it's happening. It's not the end yet.
Yeah.
And they said the gap has shrunk, that white women now are only voting for Trump by 1 point.
1 point. Yeah, I saw that. And the thing is, like, if you don't see it talked about much on, I just recently started paying attention to TikTok because I don't really go over there.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see more of them who are talking about the fact that they didn't vote or they voted for him before, but they're not voting for him now. And then the village You know, I saw one video of the older women down in the Florida in the villages
Mm-hmm.
where they were voting for Kamala, and they were also putting together postcards to send out to their neighbors, which is definitely a difference. Like that wasn't what it was in the last two times.
Well, this is what, because after I went to that page and looked at about the white women, me, I have to I want to see all the comments.
Right.
I want to see what everyone's saying, and it was interesting that there were people in the comments that saying, "Wow, I want to make I don't believe them until I see them." This was one person, so she was like, "Don't tell me white women are voting until after election day."
Yeah.
I want to know the numbers after election day. She said, I don't care about what's going on now. But then it was interesting. A lot of the comments of white women were like, it was interesting to hear I made my mistake before.
Yeah.
It was like every time you saw people, they were like, I made a mistake with Hillary. I made a mistake last election. I am so sorry I created this. And you go down and you see all these different, comments. And I thought it was quite fascinating and one person said, if all of these white women have moved over to Kamala, then why are the polls saying that is equal, that is even? It's a dead heat. Because she says the math doesn't add up. If you have all of these women that have moved over towards Kamala, and yet you're still saying that the election is even, the numbers are not adding up. And I love when people are analytical.
Right.
And she made that statement in the comment feed. And I said, sister, you're absolutely right. The numbers, and again, like Joe Scarborough said this morning on Morning Joe, he said the New York Times came out with their gloom and doom. People are leaving Kamala, blah, 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 blah. He says these people, they have, or their motives are to make it look like Kamala is losing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
and they want people to give up.
They don't tell you about all the Republicans who are hosting events for VP Harris, but they talk about the Latino men voting for Trump, the Black men voting for Trump. They do all this, and it's just not good news to talk about somebody who doesn't look like you doing well. That has never been news. It's never been news.
Right.
Never. So they are not going to promote that. Like, that's just not part of their DNA. It's not going to happen. But they would much rather talk about all this other stuff. And again, it's the distraction. It either says, hey, it's so bad, don't bother voting because your vote won't matter. Or it says, hey, we're so far ahead, so you don't have to worry about it. You need to make sure you stay focused on what's really at hand here.
Right. And that's the key, is like, it should be motivating people to get out there and say, oh, we know this is not true because they haven't contacted me. And, my major was math, but my minor branch was in statistics.
Mm-hmm.
So in the analysis of statistical data is how you pose a question and who you poll. Mm-hmm. So you can get it to say anything, because it's like when people, there was if they tell you something works, you have to find out, say a particular drug is great, right?
Yes.
And they have polls. So you need to find out who paid for the research before you determine that it's real. Because if that company paid for it, it's going to say whatever that company wants.
That's
and then I keep repeating myself on this one point. These media companies, whether they're newspaper, whomever, they're owned by rich white men in most of the cases.
Yes.
Who don't want, but in 2025, they don't want their taxes to go up. This is about their money.
Because the taxes,
planting seeds that don't make sense, right?
Yes.
And it really is about us staying focused. And the more you say that, the more people dig in, the more people should be pushing people to vote, because you say, oh, that's what they're saying. That's not what we're seeing. And even when you look on the different social media, because what you said about white women and what they're saying, that's what I see them actually making in their videos. You have some of them now, because they've done their early voting. They're actually posting their videos where they early voted and that the fact that they voted for Kamala, so they say. And as Jazzy say, my thing is always, my husband always looked at, he said, after the last election, I said, if a white woman comes up to me, she's going to have to prove to me how she voted, because I'm not going to believe her.
What you
Because
gonna do?
the majority of them didn't vote for my freedom.
Do a snap.
They didn't vote for my freedom and my
Selfie.
democracy. The majority of them didn't. So when I see that you all, less than 50% of you all at the end of the day vote for this man, then we can talk.
Yes.
Well, you know, if white women do this,
right,
if this is correct, it will be the first time that white men, all white men, white women and white men have never, ever voted more than 50% for the Democrats.
Right.
They've never. White people have always voted against themselves.
Always.
White and poor, white and working class have always voted against their selves, which is an interesting phenomenon in this country, because people around the world, they stand in dismay. Like, how is it possible that Americans vote against their own needs? There's one thing I do want to show you all, and this is all the people that said about what has, well, let me go back. Trump wants to get rid of the Constitution.
Right.
And so Kamala was on the Breakfast Club with Charlamagne the God.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved how she worded this answer. She for the first time, she dug in to this suspension of the Constitution. And she says, the Constitution, y'all, is the amendments.
Absolutely.
All of the success that Black people and people of color, but mainly Black people, the amendments are there because of Black people getting their freedoms through the history. And she goes through the amendments for the 14th Amendment, the 15th Amendment.
Right.
She says, that's what they're after.
Mm-hmm. And if you I don't know if you all have heard that Bible that they're talking about.
Yes.
In Utah. So it has the Constitution in there, but it's void of, I think it's the 11th through the 17th amendments.
See?
So they pulled those amendments out that they were talking about. So that's exactly the kind of stuff that they're talking about. So she is absolutely correct. And when people talk about the Constitution, that first part is, the whole stuff that you read, and then you used to have to start looking at the amendments, right?
The amendments is where the juice is.
Those are not in there. Someone went through this book and they found out that Constitution in that Bible is not the full Constitution. It's just like when they used to have the slave Bibles, right? They would take portions of of Bible books out that actually invalidated them holding human beings as slaves.
Mm-hmm.
Have you?
They had slave Bibles, and they say they have examples of them in the Bible Museum in DC. I haven't gone.
There's one in Philadelphia. I didn't go. Elise, there's one in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. If anyone has the chance, and you can go online and see it, it's called the Slave Bibles.
Right.
And what slave owners did is they rewrote the Bible and took out everything that was about liberation,
right,
and freedom. Whom the sun sets free is free indeed. All that stuff was eliminated. And then everything about slavery and serving your master is in the Slave Bible.
Right.
And that's why folks that get so caught up in this American white Christian nationalist religion, y'all need to wake up. I mean, it's not the first time that things have been screwed over. because it's human beings.
Oh, absolutely.
And the thing is, I mean, when I was shocked, I did not learn about the slave Bible until I think I was 50. Maybe I was 49 or 50 years old. I said this, I've been on the planet a half a century and never knew anything about the slave Bible.
Right. And most people don't know about the slave Bible. Like I found out about it a long time ago, but most people don't know that. And then most people don't realize, because you take Nat Turner. Nat Turner learned to read.
Yes.
And he read those portions of the Bible that said, hey, this is not right.
That's right.
And that was really the motivation to say, this is according to these words that you're making me read. Now that I can read them and understand them, this is not what we should be doing as
and remember, the only reason why they let him read was so he could be persuasive.
Yes.
To the slaves.
Absolutely.
To love their enslavement.
Right. And then he discovered.
And then he was like, wait a minute. He had an awakening.
He said, that's not what this says.
This is not what the Bible says. This is not what their Bible says.
Right. And I think that, that's what a knowledge is power, right?
Knowledge is
power. And we have become so much more powerful as we find these things out. And even as you have like the early voting that's going on now, people in Georgia, I hope that immigrants that are in this country actually go and look up that 1798 alien enemy.
Ooh, baby.
Because and I hope the ones in Michigan in particular listen to that, because you are in his mind the enemy. You are in his mind the enemy. So if you choose to sit it out, or you choose to vote some other kind of way because you could think you're doing some damage to Kamala, you're really damaging yourself, because the Muslim ban, as he has stated, will be put it back into place as soon as he gets back into office. Then you are going to be declared, because of your ancestry and your country of origin, you're going to be declared an enemy of the country by the president. He does not need anyone else. That act says that the president alone can determine who these groups of people are. If you are from Haiti, he's going to declare that you're enemies of this country.
Yes, but he said he's going after not the illegals already got their situation.
Oh yeah, he's going after
these are legal immigrants.
Right.
I want everyone to remember in 1798 act that you could go after legal
immigrants. Yes. That's how the Japanese, Italians, and Germans who were Americans were put into
concentration camps.
But you're asking for a lot.
Yeah.
So think about it. Okay, so there are people, and if you just look at intraracial relationships, there is always somebody who feels like they're better than. You can use skin tone, right? I'm fair, I could pass for white. So there's always somebody in every single group who feels they're better than, and this could never impact me.
Right.
Yeah. So you're asking for someone to pretty much throw out everything they believe to be true. Right. Which is they could be rounded up with all the other people that they have been looking down on for so long.
And so if they want an example of understanding that, we take the Asian Americans who allowed themselves to be used by Ed Bloom against affirmative action.
Yep.
And they look. I'm gonna do a Kamala moment at this moment, because I wanted to say something, but
let me pause my thoughts.
They found out you in the same bucket as the rest of them. That the only person that is not in that bucket is the white man in America. That's the only person. And I think that's the harsh reality that people will find out, is that you're not protected because your complexion is lighter. And because as people have to remember, our caste system is built on racism. It's built on racism. And the closer you look, the more you look white, the more you think you are white, but they will remind you quickly
that you are not.
And he will enact that 1798 Alien Enemies Act, And you're going to be in internment camps, concentration camps, whatever you want to. And while they try to figure out what you are going to do, they're going to use you for free labor. You're going to be in slavery. They're not going to make you
this is where these people want to go. I mean, if you check, and this is what they, if you check Stephen Miller and his mind, how he thinks, because Stephen Miller is a lot of the architect behind this crazy stuff.
Oh yeah, he is.
Trump is not smart enough
not
to
even
think
close.
this out.
He didn't.
This is a Stephen Miller, and what's the other one? The one that's in jail right now. Steve Bannon. This is their architecture.
Right. He would have never come up with this.
No, Trump is just being. He's a useful, as the Russians say, he's a useful fool.
Fool to all of those things.
A useful fool. I wish I don't know how you say it in Russian, but it's a useful fool. Anyway, here's another subject that was really cool. And it's something I have to share with you because this one was on Roland. Roland shared this. I think this was this morning. Hold on. Let me see a check on the date. That was yesterday. And he sent an email out to the Biden administration to get a list of all of their accomplishments that affect Black people.
Right.
It was, hold on a second, let me get it up because the only way I can't repeat it is so much that you can only listen to it. And it was really good information. And again, when people say, and it's like some of the panelists on this panel you see here, they were saying, anyone right now that's talking about Kamala Harris, they don't know what Kamala Harris believes. They don't know what Kamala Harris wants. They don't know her policies, yada, 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 that the Biden administration has done nothing for Black people, blah, blah, blah. These are people that they have their heads in the sand, or they simply have made a decision to not like the Biden administration or to like Kamala or to like, they're just biased. Right. So here it is. I think you guys should hear
it. Out a variety of things in here. First and foremost, look, I was there in Detroit. I was there in Atlanta. She went to Atlanta multiple times. She went to Charlotte, actually talking about this economic opportunity tour. And so then you go through here. So you heard the things that we already talked about, launching a national health equity initiative focused on Black men that addresses sickle cell disease, diabetes, mental health, prostate cancer, and other health challenges that disproportionately affect them. And so then you go through here and you see these things. You look at the issues here where you talk about this $20,000 forgivable loan for Black entrepreneurs. And so then when you go through here and you begin to see a partnership with the Small Business Administration, expanding access to bank accounts. Again, when you talk about enabling Black men and other workers to profit when company executives profit, expanding pathways for Black men to good paying jobs, whether or not they have a college degree, and on and on and on. Now, I say all of that. I say all of that because, again, those things are good because, again, what Black folks are saying is I want to hear from you in terms of what you're going to do. But when I think about hashtag, we did that. And that's what I use here. Here we go to my iPad because I asked the White House, tell me exactly what you actually accomplished in 3.5 years for African Americans. I need everybody listening. I'm just going to go through this here. So
get ready,
they sent me, achieved lowest Black unemployment rate on record, created 2.4 million jobs for Black workers as of August 2024. Lifted 400,000 Black children out of poverty by increased SNAP benefits through updating the Thrifty Food Plan. Who wants to actually cut the SNAP program? Republicans. Grew Black American business ownership at the fastest rate in over 3 decades. Triple the number of SBA-backed loans to Black-owned businesses. Awarded a record $10 billion in federal contracts to Black-owned small businesses in 2023. Invested more than $16 billion in HBCUs, secured a $900 increase to the maximum Pell Grant Award, largest increase in the past 10 years. And here's the piece, that Pell Grant money is actually in addition to the HBCU money. Then approved the cancellation of almost $170 billion in student loan debt, rooted out racial bias in home appraisals, and closed the black-white home valuation disparity gap by 40%. And you'll hear me talk to Vice President Harris about that. Reduced mortgage insurance premiums for FHA loans, saving 76,000 black households $900 a year. Cut costs for high-speed internet to 5.5 million black households with the Affordable Connectivity Program. Distributed $2.2 billion in financial assistance to over 43,000 farmers who experienced discrimination. And of course, Stephen Miller, Trump's white nationalist, sued to stop the money that was allocated to black and Hispanic farmers.
Right.
Led historically equitable economic recovery. Black wealth, even after adjusting for inflation, is up 60% to pre-pandemic levels, the largest increase on record. Ending health disparities. It says right here, lower premium costs by an average of $800 for millions of Americans, increasing black enrollment in Affordable Care Act coverage by 95%, more than 1.7 million people since 2020. That specifically impacts black men and their health. Lowered monthly premiums for health insurance, capped the cost of insulin at $35 and out-of-pocket drug costs at $2,000 for those on Medicare. Announced the first 10 prescription drugs for Medicare price negotiation, saving some $1.5 billion. Made sickle cell disease the first focus of the new Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services model. Expanded Medicaid postpartum coverage from 60 days to 12 months in 46 states and Washington, D.C., covering 700,000 more women in the year of childbirth. Secured an additional $1.5 billion for a Head Start. Delivered $1 billion to more than 40 states to increase the number of school-based mental health professionals. Signed 2 executive orders directing the federal government to address inequality. Protected Black history as American history. Signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act. Designated Springfield 1908 Race Riot and Emmett Till and Mamie Till Mobley National Monuments. Signed the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act to classify lynching for the first time as a federal hate crime. Work to protect the sacred right to vote through executive actions. Continued calls for legislation. Appointed the first black woman to the Supreme Court. There are more black women federal circuit court and more black women to federal circuit courts than all previous presidents combined, and more black judges appointed in a single term, more than any other president in American history. Signed an executive order on police reform when Senate Republicans blocked the George Floyd Justice Act. Signed into law the first bipartisan Safer Communities Act. Secured $350 million in funding specifically for community violence intervention programs. Pardoned thousands of Americans under federal and D.C. law for simple possession of marijuana. Helped bring crime to its lowest level in 50 years, lower than during any year of the previous administration. And what's not in here, I'll add, that was one patterns and practice investigation, Renita, under Trump, 12 under Biden-Harris. Donald Trump executed 13 people in 6 months on the federal level, 0 under Biden-Harris.
I'm going to take.
So you get it. I mean, when you see, I mean, and he skipped over several other stuff that was there.
Right.
And you think about black people do, and then at the end he says it's unfortunate, and his only qualm with the Biden administration is that they did not communicate all of this to the black community.
Yeah, and that's been their biggest problem, is not letting people know what they've done. And that's been, they should have been doing this the entire time. They should have, like they bulleted it out for him. They should have been putting a page out every week. Do it, as they were coming out, just saying these are the things we've done. Because even in there, I don't even know if I heard about the gun violence initiative office that they have in the White House.
Yes,
where they've been convening community leaders from around the country. This is about the gun violence that's within the community themselves. They've been convening those individuals and working to help train individuals on that across the country. And those people have been here several times.
Yes.
Over the last couple of years, actually, they've come to the White House to meet and sit down and talk to the Biden administration, and they established that office because that's what's impacting the community. And I think that's one of the things that really helped having Kamala Harris in place, is that because of her background and what she's done, what she did in California to reduce the penalties and to not have some things be considered federal crimes so that people can get support and be reestablished in the community. I think it's a testament to her to even have that as a thought, to put that gun violence initiative in the office, and to realize that all of the things that impacted, Black people and all other people, that has been done by this administration. Particularly, one of the things they want to do is get rid of Pell Grant.
Yes.
Under the former president's administration. That's what they talk about all the time. And I think people aren't paying enough attention. And it is the fact that they did not put that information out, because, Jazzy said, she and I have been talking about it for a long time, that they need to put out what they've done. And we can say it, but, it needs to be on a bigger platform. And also, I will put it at the feet of media as well.
Yes.
Because they know it's happened. They know it's happened.
They don't talk about
these events. They never report on these events. They report stupid stuff. They report whatever they think is going to get them the clickbait. That's all their attention. So they don't report on these things either. And I think that's a part where media has failed in addition. And then, I've always said they're complicit in all of this craziness.
Yeah, I sat there and said, when he went through that list, and like I said, I've gone through the list, because we had this conversation before of all you have to do is put in your Google accomplishments for Black people by the Biden administration.
Right.
And the list comes up. This was a more in-depth list because he sent out and asked for it, and they gave a plethora of accomplishments. And I always like to say, people are saying that, she's on the road right now and she's saying what she's going to do for Black people. And there's some people, obviously, how the media likes to spin it. Well, she be thinking about Black people because she's Black, and she's not thinking about white people, and she's not thinking about this, and she's not thinking about that. Oh, and we always have to remind people, when the amendments were added to the Constitution because of Black people. When the laws are created because there's no one else other than indigenous people that are treated like crap, the worst, the bottom of the totem pole.
Absolutely.
When you fix what's wrong with the least, everybody prospers above.
Right.
Same thing with, think about, it's the amendments that gave women the right to vote, the right to do what they needed to do. No one has affirmative action. White women were the greatest beneficiaries. They benefited the most from affirmative action.
Correct.
Yet it was created because of Black people, but white women made the most traction with it.
Right. And people have to understand, policies aren't really written specific, right?
Right.
So
they're not,
and that's why she kept trying. That's
women.
why she kept saying, and she's become more specific. Like, Black people benefit from this as well. She's letting people know that the policies that are in place also have benefited Black people, because Black people want to think that they're going to say it specifically. No, because all of that can be challenged, right?
Yes.
But if it's there and you get access to it, then you benefited from it. Your numbers, you have less hungry children. You have less unemployment. It may not feel like it, but I see jobs around me, all around me, where places have people can have ads for hiring people.
Yes. And
it's
don't need a college degree to get it.
Why aren't you taking that job? And I used to tell my nephew, I told my nephews who I helped raise this, I said, let me tell you, if you don't have a job, there's nothing beneath you. There's no job too low for you to do if you have nothing. You do what you have to do. You had a grandfather who worked in a funeral home and in the hospital kitchen. There was nothing too nothing below him to make sure that he had what he needed. And I think a lot of times when people, I can't find a job, I can help you find a job today. Come on now, will you take it? Which is what happened in Springfield, Ohio.
That's right.
The jobs were there. They chose not to do those jobs.
They didn't want to do the jobs.
Yeah, they chose not to do it. And then, even with the farm workers, the farmers, there's this white farmer, he says, I put the ad out there, no one responded. So these are the people who showed up.
That's
so
right.
We have to stop complaining about what people aren't doing for us and understand that the way they can accomplish that is by putting it out so we can benefit it and make sure we're included. And I think the Biden administration, like I said, this is the first administration in over however many years where we can say Black people genuinely have gotten some major benefits.
This
from
is the first,
specifically
the Biden
HBCU money and all that.
Yes, the Biden administration has done more for the Black community and people of color, but mainly the Black community, than any administration ever before.
Right. And he's fulfilled those promises. He said, I'm going to get Kamala Harris, and here's my VP. I'm going to get you a Black female Supreme Court justice.
That's right.
And he did it.
He got a Supreme Court justice, gave you a vice president, a Black female vice president, put more Black women on the judicial life court. Like, when you become a judge for life.
Those are federal judges. Yeah.
Those are federal judges, and more Black women are serving than ever in history.
Right.
And they miss out. Hey, Jazzy Jazz.
Hey, Jazzy. You're on mute. So.
I know. I just realized it. Hi.
Hey, Jazz. So good to see you. I know you want to add some sense to this.
Listen, I again, I have a meeting in like 12 minutes, but
how are they?
I just wanted to say, because I think something that is always missing from the conversation when we talk about this is the fact that I see it all the time. I'm in an organization. My organization targets specific people, right?
Right.
And so when you are not that specific person, you have a tendency to say they're not doing anything.
Right.
And I'll use the D9 as an example because I'm a part of D9, and a lot of times, I hear outside of that is we don't see what they do in the community. Mm-hmm. But if you go into those communities and you go and target the people that they are targeting, then they very much see it. Mm. One of the schools that my sister works at is one of the schools that my organization sponsors, right? Is a Title I school. We go in there, we give kids books, we have a tutoring program, we have all these things. And the same exact thing is happening with the Biden-Harris administration. Right. They are doing things that are specifically targeting people. But if you are not touched by it, you have a tendency to say they're not doing anything. Yeah. So my question and my ask is for people that are still saying they aren't doing anything for the Black community, what is it that you specifically want to see? Absolutely. Because when that question is asked, there is no answer.
Yes.
Because they don't know what they want.
Well, saying is, as a professional,
right?
As a professional, we're all taught as professionals in our fields that people don't know what they are missing. Our job as a professional in our field is to tell them, to educate them of what they need, because that's our job as professionals.
And also understand that federal funding is up here, right? So the Biden-Harris administration is providing federal funding to these states. The state, if your governor is a red governor, if your legislator on your state level is a red legislator, use North Carolina as an example. They literally sat there. They have a Democratic governor. They have a red
legislative body,
legislative branch, and they sat there and did not take federal funding for infrastructure. They did not take federal funding from different organizations. So when Helene happened, they were having all these issues because they voted not to accept federal funds. Right. And this is what the Democratic Party, to me, has to say more clearly, and say it with their whole chest and say it plain. They cannot sit here and over-intellectualize. The one thing I will give Trump and Vance credit for is that they are very good at dumbing it down.
And being
dumbing it down in a way where it's like, you know what? I will give you one page with 5 bulletins on it that absolutely mean nothing, but they repeat it and they say it, and I can look on their website and I can say, okay, these are the 5 things they want to do for Black people, right? They're
Right.
not doing anything, but these are the 5 things I see that they want to do.
Right.
If I go on the whitehouse.gov and I'm looking at one thing, and it's great that, you know, they have all this writing, the average person is not going to sit there and read all
And
that.
read all the
And
stuff.
sometimes you have to dumb it down for so people that really don't have the time, in the knowledge, in the understanding to really fully understand and grasp all of it, to get to the main chunks of what people are saying.
Yep.
It's crazy the amount of times where I will sit there and I'll read something and I'm like, okay, this actually makes sense, but people don't understand it. They have to stop over intellectualizing everything that they're talking about. Make it plain. That's
Keep it
one thing
simple.
that Obama did very well, was that every press conference he did, he would go in there and say, listen, folks, they're trying to take your money. Listen, Trump, I'm going to sign the check. Had nothing to do with it. Signed it.
That's right.
Signed it. I've never seen an actual signed check, but whatever. But that was his whole that was his whole thing. So I think sometimes we just have to understand that, one, just because you're not getting what you think you need in these communities, go to your state and say, hey, I see that these federal funds have been released for this, and then track the money in your state. I always say follow the money. In North Carolina, one of the things that they do is that in certain counties, they don't have, like, you can vote for your councilmen in the counties. You can do all that, but there's one specific person that's in control of the money. And if you don't vote correctly, right, the person that's getting appointed to release these funds, me and Elise could be in cahoots, and then I say, okay, Elise, you know what? Me and you, we gonna run this up, and I'm gonna like you to be the money person. And I know that we want to, I don't know, have a garden, and we can put all the funds in the garden, and you can't do anything about it. Because that's my friend,
they call it the comp controller.
Not a voted person, but it's not a voted person in North Carolina. This person is a county specific person, and they're not voted for. They are appointed by the person that you're voting for. So you have to pay attention to what you're doing in your local elections. They mean more. All of these elections mean something, but the local elections is the most important thing.
There you go.
Yeah.
And
all voting begins local.
Change in your community, vote your local councilman, vote your local senator, vote your local House representative,
school board member.
Who those people are, and you're not doing anything for yourself.
And the prime example is Mississippi on that, as far as when that money went to help build a volleyball structure down there. Yeah. That was meant for people.
I'm still mad at that.
So you have to, that's how they choose to use it. And I think it still goes back to what you put in the chat earlier, Jazzy. People not understanding the structure of government.
Yeah.
The fact that, yes, that governor is there, but these people control the purse strings.
They control the purse strings. Just
and
like
you got it. That's why you can't have that split ticket.
A split ticket don't work.
You cannot have that split ticket and Carolina is an example. And that they have those issues down there now that was caused by that split ticket. Yeah. And then when you have totally red states, governors and all that, it's a disaster. And then when they need something, the people like, oh, you know, when Texas had that horrible problem a few years ago, and it was the power thing. Oh, you can't get connected to anybody's grid because you're on a grid alone. The federal government can't help
because you voted on it.
Because that's how your red folks chose to do it.
Your red folks. Speaking of voting, did anyone see the debate yesterday with Ted Cruz?
I didn't see the whole
thing. Oh, baby. Ted Cruz is a windbag. I mean, he just made noise. Yeah. I'm hoping that I just wish one day that the southern states, the people of the southern states, mainly the white people in the southern states, but in some places there are more black people, but they're all divided and gerrymandered. And gerrymandered and all the other stuff.
Yeah, they're gerrymandered.
So all of the people of the southern states will begin to wake up and vote for their needs.
Right. And you talk about the gerrymandering, you know, the fight in Alabama where you had the black people who were trying to get another spot because they had been gerrymandered such that they did not have that. And that's the problem, because when you have a state like Mississippi, it's like one of the largest black populations in the country.
In the
but it's so gerrymandered
Gerrymandered.
that they split up those people so much that they can't. They like, and then they get
They can never come
discouraged. You don't
together.
vote like you should. You still
Yes.
have to come out and vote. You still have to show up
Mhm.
and make a difference, because it's over 30% African American down there. You still have to show up. But the
Yes.
problem is how
Absolutely.
they know that that's the whole thing, is we can control them by drawing where they can and can't go,
Yeah.
and then making it hard for them to get to the polling places.
Right, by eliminating boxes, eliminating
Mhm.
post areas, and you have to
Right.
go into another town. You have to take a bus.
And
It's
I
a
will
mess.
say, I think, sorry to cut you off.
Mhm.
I will just say, I think I didn't really fully grasp this until my mom moved to Arkansas, and she's in a town of 100 people, right? Literally 100 and
100 people.
106. She was
Those
100.
are the towns that scare
Right.
me.
Yeah. But I think one of the things that I didn't realize, it's like, I think being from a metropolitan area like I am, it's easy for us to say, just go down the street and go in the polls and whatever. My mom's closest grocery store is 30 minutes away.
Mm.
When they purge these people from the rolls, it's easy to say, go down and fix it. If I don't have a car and I don't have resources, and you purge me from the roll, and my closest voting place is 100 miles away, guess what? I'm not going to go fix that.
Yeah.
In Texas, you have to go in person to sign
Mhm.
that form.
Yes.
If I'm 100 miles away from something, and it's easy for people like us to sit here and say, okay, just do it.
It's
But
very
we
true.
have to have
Very true.
some understanding there, because truthfully, I didn't fully understand it. I was like, what's the problem? Like, even with my mom, I had to help her look up her registration and show her where it was, because she went to the city hall, filled out the paperwork. They didn't send her anything back. They weren't going to send her anything back. We found out where to go. It's very confusing. And I think we take it for granted being in places like we are from.
True.
Oh,
Very
absolutely.
true.
Like, we really do. So, all right.
Because also
All right, Jazzy, enjoy your meeting, girl.
also when you live in a town of 100 people, cousin Joe is the judge. Cousin Barbara is
And my
the
cousin is
county
the judge.
the
Yeah.
accountant.
Your cousin is the judge.
Literally, my cousin is
Cousin
the
Bobby
judge.
is the mayor, and cousin and sister over there, they are the administrators, and
Absolutely.
and then cousin May, she's on the register board.
And that's exactly how it works.
Mabel, man, Mabel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like-
Exactly how it works.
May.
And that's the stuff, and and that was so obvious.
I'm scared.
What they
I'm
were doing
scared
in
of
Georgia,
small towns.
because that was the thing they were doing in Georgia. They were moving. They had moved the polls in the Black communities, so that it took them hours in line to vote. Where in the white communities, they could vote in a matter of minutes. And so they would that's what they were doing. They were moving them away. You have people where your polling places are 30 minutes away. But it used to be down the street. And so that doesn't make sense. It's a whole totally different area, totally different county. It's ridiculous what they do, but it's all about voter suppression. It has always been.
It's always been about voting suppression. And again, and we're going to end it on this, is when you think about, like I said, I always remember my grandfather, my uncle, who was in an accident, lost his leg. He worked for sanitation, and there was no hospital. The hospital that was in their town closed in North Carolina. They had to fly him out by helicopter to Virginia, almost like, I think he had to go to Virginia. He had to go to Virginia to get his leg amputated and the surgery that he needed from this accident. Because in North Carolina, even though they may have a Democratic governor, like Jazzy was saying, the legislature said, we do not accept money from the Obama administration.
Isn't that crazy?
Because we don't want, they would say, Obamacare in our state. Meanwhile, people are dying. People don't have the hospitals. The hospitals have closed down. They don't have the financing. And And I will say, oh, and I know it's not easy because some of these places are so gerrymandered and so manipulated. And these people, white supremacy is real, especially in a lot of these counties and a lot of these small towns. And even in the, they trickle down. You got the governor. He's kind of like looking like he's not crazy or he's not in the ring, but he steps aside so his hands don't get dirty. But there's some people pulling the triggers and pulling all the stuff that needs to happen in those small towns. And Jazzy made a good point. It's not as easy. And Gwendolyn says it often also, like, for some of us, we're able to pack our bags and leave the country if we need to.
Right. It's not. They can't. They don't have.
But most people cannot leave.
Right. Most people don't have a passport. Most people, we have people in DC. We have children in parts of DC who've never been to Baltimore.
Yeah.
So we're not even talking about traveling outside of the country. But we also, like, during this time is looking at where they got over 200,000 people who are going to be out there at the polls trying to do voter suppression.
Yes.
They're going to be out there intimidating voters. I saw somebody with signs around there. So, those people are going to be out there near polls as well. And then, you just have to look at what the kinds of pressure that in these small places, like if you in these states, these southern states, especially any red state, you're going to have these people trying to intimidate. They're going to be in Arizona. They're going to be every place. And I know they had cases of it in Arizona in 2020.
Yeah, when they had the guns, everyone's out there with the guns and the AKs.
Yeah, they come out armed. Yes, and so
can I add one thing to that, Miss Elise, since you brought up, and I know we say small town, but I'm in Texas, right? We're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I am born and raised in Houston. It's happening in those big democratic cities too,
right?
Because of where we are now. Houston is an hour away from itself, right? So we are seeing the same things happen in those small towns, happen in your metropolitan areas as well. So it's a matter of power. People want power, but here's my point. Listening to all of this is that, we talk about getting to November 5th. The real work starts November 6th.
Absolutely.
And anything worth having requires us to be active. Democracy requires its citizens to be active. And when you're trying to get people who only see what's not working for them, it is working through a trauma to get them back to a place of trust that you do have resources.
Absolutely.
Things are working in your favor, but you got to keep showing people these things for them to finally say, okay, so maybe things are working in my good. That's a long process. But anything worth having is worth fighting for.
And I posted something I saw in the middle of the night about the number of people on the inactive voting list in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And it's like November 6th, we need to start finding out what's going on there in Louisiana when you have over 600,000 people who did not vote in the last election, but they're registered. And why are they inactive? Because we don't do enough of trying to find out what are those traumas, what are the reasons that they haven't voted, because there are reasons. It's not just because I don't want to be involved. There's some other reasons. And there was a case that a white gentleman was saying, he said, I was wondering why only 18% of these people voted in here. He said, but now I'm here, and I forget exactly what he was talking about. He said, now I'm here, I understand. They've made it so difficult.
Yes.
For these individuals in this community to get to the place to vote. That's why it's 18%, because some people just you may not have the resources to get there. You don't have the time, whatever it is, you don't have the time to travel to get where they needed to vote. He said after he looked at that, he now understood why only 18% of those people from that particular community had voted, because they made it almost impossible for them to do so. And I think that there's a lot of stuff that's going on that we don't know. And, and I've kept up with what they're doing in Houston, and how they want to take control of the Houston school system.
They work overtime. I mean,
overtime there. But, the thing is, like, we have to understand it may not seem like it because of gerrymander and all that, but if we show up and we're powerful, and
vote is your power.
To the polls, because that's our voice. I believe that if the right people show up to vote in all of these places that people are taking for granted, that MAGA Republicans are going to come back to the House, I think if people really showed up and voted, those people wouldn't come back.
That's right.
They had the power to vote them out.
If everyone did the right thing and voted for their needs,
Right.
Black, white, Asian, indigenous, poor, middle class, rich, whatever. Because remember, not all rich people want tax breaks.
Right. They say
Yeah. As a matter of fact, half of the rich people that were billionaires said to Trump, "We don't need a tax break.
right.
Why are you giving us a tax break? We don't need it.
Because he
Put
had
that
paid.
money somewhere else." But they did it because of him, because he was looking out for himself.
Absolutely.
It had nothing
He
even to do with
paid
those
it.
other billionaires. It was about him.
Right.
And those things, as Elise addressed earlier, that law, those tax breaks come to an end in 2025.
Right. 2025.
And
I think,
Trump is only fighting for himself. I mean, and I'm going to close out.
Stay out
He
of
was at
jail.
his last rally
Oh,
that he did, just sitting there, standing there, rocking. And he said, "We're not taking any more questions."
after 4 questions
Yeah, after 4 questions.
and 4 rambling answers.
You sit there and say, how is it possible that people are voting for this guy? But ignorance is bliss.
It is.
Ignorance is bliss.
It is.
There's a happy place in ignorance.
Yeah, but the audience asked some
people began to walk
questions.
out.
When you asked about what are you going to do for small business,
Yes.
but he started out talking about gas. You knew you weren't going to ever get an answer.
He didn't answer anything.
He never answers the question, but they ask meaningful questions. My thing is, once you hear that and you still stand there and say, I'm going to vote for this, then that's on you. You should
gonna
know.
vote for it. They are right. And again, but I'm glad that Kamala is taking care of business. She is going to be on Fox. Yeah, she's going in. I like to say she's going into the lion's den. She's going to be on. I do believe they almost finished with this, the #1 podcast in America.
Oh, that Joe, whatever his name
is, and I never listened to him, so I don't know.
Rogan?
Joe Rogan, right? Rogan, yeah. And so she is making waves. She is going to be on several talk shows. She's on podcasts. That's how you do it. And she's going into Gerald Ford's community. She's going into all these Republican communities to go. All you need to do is chip away in every one of these places.
Though, Ron, may I? I appreciate her doing all that. I really do. Trust me, I do. However, we all know, and I'm just saying from like a woman's perspective, you can be a mediocre man and you can do all the tricks and it's not going to do anything. So I appreciate it. But these folks have their mind made up.
Right. Because this man, you said mediocre. This man is not even mediocre.
Not even mediocre.
And
gets away with despot.
And the media never holds him accountable for anything. No. But what I'll give Kamala credit for is that she is a very confident woman.
Yes.
And she's not afraid of anyone that asks her a question. And that part, when Charlamagne said to her, I didn't watch the whole thing because Charlamagne can be a little crazy. But when he said to her, people keep saying, you keep repeating the same thing over and over again.
Oh, that was good.
And she said, that's called discipline.
Yes, baby.
He needed that. She needed that. That's discipline.
She said that's called discipline.
Discipline. He didn't know what to say.
Kamala, she rocked that interview. She rocked that interview. And I don't want to be, and from all the white ladies and white folks that are in our community, there's a certain way, and I said this before in the beginning of this election season, there's a certain way that Black women are able to conduct themselves and how fast their wit, their wittiness is so. And I will always say, because for those that don't know, in the Black community, we used to have these things called ranking. We used to rank on each other. We used to challenge each other all the time, call each other names, tease each other. Your sneakers look like such and such. Your mama did such and such. Remember all the mama jokes and daddy jokes.
And so
I know this happens in other communities, but in the Black community, we are conditioned from childhood to be full of wit,
And
It's
have
survival mode.
survival.
right.
It's
And then,
survival mode.
We've learned to survive the bad kids in class that want to talk
absolutely.
about our sweaters, talk about our shoes, and we always had to have a quick, fast response. We had to be able to look at someone up and down within seconds and be able to address and turn it around on them.
And looking as an educator, Ron, I use those skills masterfully.
The
I had
library
a
stays
kid
open
one day.
to Mr. Lee's.
Look, I had a kid one day who called me the B word.
Oh,
And I said, now I'm going to give you two instances. One was he called me the B word. I said, your mama. He said, what? I said, my response was that because you evidently must have a reference point for whoever it was. And I'm assuming it's the female in your life. He looked at me. After that, the little boy gave me a hug every time he saw me. The next one said, he called me the B word. And I said, well, you know what? I'm the best one you'll ever know. Now go to class. He didn't have a response for that. And that's the one thing I love is the ability not to take it in and be insulted by it, but to have that comeback. So when she did that, it just reminded of how people do. He went through that and she said it's called discipline. And then it was like, next, what else you got?
Yes, and she knocked out the conversation was so well done. Kamala had an answer. And like I said, she not only had the answer that she's been sharing along the way,
right?
She took it a little bit deeper. Because someone said yesterday, they said because she knew her audience.
Yeah, she knew her audience in that case.
She knew who she was talking to, and she knew her audience, and she was able, like when they were talking about the Constitution. She goes, "Let me tell you, it's not just the Constitution; it's the amendments that are attached to that Constitution."
Right.
And she had never phrased it that way on the campaign trail.
Right.
But she knew her audience. She knew all those people that were going to be listening. And she was able to, like a doctor, she took out her scalpel and she surgically, everything that needed to be addressed, she did it.
Yeah.
She was masterful.
And most people who, if you've never, we have a tiny book in here that's the Constitution.
Yeah.
And most people don't know what the Constitution itself is. And then when you start with the amendment, most of the time you hear people, they always say, I want the First Amendment, Second Amendment. That's all they know.
That's all they know. Gun rights.
But when people start looking at it and actually notice that this part is the Constitution. Now, all of these things down here.
All the amendments and the articles.
Right. And the articles and the amendments of the Constitution. And so you got the Constitution and the articles, and then you have all the amendments. And most people don't know the structure. And I have in my house, we keep a World Book Encyclopedia because that's what I grew up on. So it has the Constitution in it. My granddaughter's studying the Constitution. We have the little one, and I said, now you got two choices. You either use this little one, or you go and get that encyclopedia. You read everything that's in the Constitution, all the amendments and everything. But we keep those in the house because there's some information that's eternal.
Queen says, I do wish we understood the power of our votes. You are so right that if we all showed up to vote, there would be an astronomical change in the direction of our country.
Yeah. The last election, 70 million people, registered voters, did not show up to vote.
Didn't show up.
People don't know the power they have. And the con has been that you have no power. And some people have agreed to stick to that con. And then the moment somebody wakes up and says, I don't know why you're doing that because you have XYZ, it changes the dynamic. Yeah. But that means that people like us, and I talked to Ron about this, you know, my siblings and I, we have different life experiences. We are definitely not the same, although we came from the same womb.
Right.
Having different life experiences means you can expose your family members, your friends and loved ones to other things that they don't know. Stuff comes up. And, you know, Gwendolyn's like the World Wide Web. They're like, hey, can you explain this to me? And so we'll go into it in like a family chat. Now, if you choose to believe it, great. If you don't, whatever. But it's the conversation. And we don't do enough talking as families. We don't do enough talking as friends.
Absolutely.
You know, we don't like to call people out. This election, in my opinion, and I know we're closing, Ron, it's about your values. You either are a person who believes in hate, because I'm going to call it what it is. It is hate, plain and simple. What's going on over there is about hate. You can talk about, well, it's the economy, and those are lies we tell ourselves because we don't want to look at the man in the mirror or the woman in the mirror and be like, oh my God, I'm that person. You are that person. It's hate.
Yes.
You're right.
Plain and simple.
Absolutely.
Or you can say, I do believe in this idea of America where everybody can have a piece of this American pie and that dream that died some times ago and have a house and a picket fence and like 3.5 kids and a dog, right? Like it's that. But you have choices, but people don't know the power they have.
Yeah.
And you start telling them you have power.
You have
as
power.
Employee, as mother, father, whatever. You have powers. These people, they work for you. You better tell them. Otherwise, nothing happens.
Absolutely.
There you go. Okay, ladies and gents, we are out of here. This was wonderful. We went into overtime. I was like trying to get out of here by 11 o'clock. But you know what? That's what I love about streaming. And I have totally embraced my power in streaming.
Have you, Ron?
I love that we get together every morning and have conversations and talk as a community. I mean, there's other places you could be, but you're here. We're all here together, learning together, encouraging one another, supporting one another, and giving each other information because we all learn together.
And the hope is that once the information is given and shared, is that we all take it and give it and share it with someone else.
There you go.
Community, because that's the most important thing, is that we spread it. It's not just to be housed and stay right here and we all say, oh, we know, but go inform someone else, because that's what the knowledge and power really is how we use our voice and outside of these conversations. Because I know the three of us sitting right here and Jazzy and Brian and all the other people in here, they're constantly talking to other people. And I think that's the important part. And it's like, I heard this today and my group talked about this today, and you go out and talk to a friend because somebody may have that question and may not know. And I look, I'm the one that's calling everybody. I say, did you vote? Do you know when your voting starts? Get out there and get that done and tell me when you did it. But I think that the important part is the information that you share. And after you get off, there are more people who will listen to the replay. And it gets to show again on Indie Soup Media. It gets to play again on Indie Soup. So more people get to see it, right? So the more people get to see it, the more power it generates and the more people understand the power they have. We are so much more powerful. They fear us because of our power.
Yes.
And I have to say what Tank said, that they're more afraid. They're not afraid of our violence toward each other. They're afraid of our love toward each other.
There you go. There you go. And as Chris says, hit the button, hit the like. If you enjoyed this conversation, hit the like. It makes the algorithm say, oh, maybe we should send more people your way. So that's how the algorithms work. And also make sure that you, again, like and subscribe. If you're not a subscriber, make sure you do that. And we're gonna have, tomorrow's our Trend Watch Thursday. I think I'm pretty sure Chris will be here with us tomorrow. And we're in voting season, guys. And again, remind all of our friends, all of our loved ones, everyone you know, your neighbors, get your vote in now. If you can, the earlier the better, because also you can correct if you're not on the rolls or something has happened or there's a dispute. You have time to react by going to the polls early and voting. Let's keep the records going. Georgia, you are on my mind.
Georgia, everyone that started early voting, let's show up and show out.
Show up and show out.
Yeah.
I see Rashawn says, so true, Gwendolyn. So true. Look at you, the ladies of wisdom. Anyway. Guys, thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you tomorrow. And this was real. It was real. This is real. Bye.